Israelis are leaving Israel right now. Boats are carrying civilians from Israel to the island of Cyprus. These boats are carrying 2,000 at a time, and around 20 right now are in service. They're using the port city of Haifa, which has been under attack by Iranian missiles for the past 4 days. And if you're wondering why they're not simply leaving by airplane, that is because Israel has just enacted a law saying that Israeli civilians are forbidden from leaving Israel as they prepare for a military mobilization of their 10 million population. But if you're not an Israeli citizen, aka a tourist or any diplomat, you're able to leave. Israel is wanting to trap everyone in the country. Very weird to trap everyone in a country of an active war zone, showing that they might be ready for a prolonged conflict with Iran, or maybe they want the casualty counts to be a little high for sympathy. But the matter of the fact is, these Israelis who hold this land so dear are so quick to leave it to a little island off the coast whenever the going gets tough. Make sure to follow me for the newest updates on the conflict and let me know, is Cyprus the new promised land?
I can't stop thinking about the fact that Israeli settlers are actually paying thousands and thousands of dollars to jump on these yachts and head over to Cyprus. Like literally like some mad dash across the ocean, like mass exodus. Now the thing is, I don't know if you guys are already aware of this, Cyprus is already overrun with settler colonial Israelis, yes. So there seems to be, for some unknown reason, there seems to be a huge influx of them. As well as that, lots and lots of Israelis go on holiday to Cyprus after they finish with their IOF duties. And people are these settlers, they're buying up land there, they're building houses, they're literally taking over the area. Now there's a mass exodus of them coming from Israel. I don't know how this is going to affect Cyprus. I don't know how the Cypriot people are going to react. I don't know the welcome that they're going to give. So that's something that I'm going to be keeping my eye on. And you also need to remember that Cyprus is where the British have their military base. That's where they launch their spy planes from, that spy on Gaza to give information to the settler colonial entity. Oh my God, my head is spinning. I'm so tired by it.
Please keep a close eye on Cyprus. Palestine was chosen because it was militarily, strategically important. It's got nothing to do with a fake claim that some Eastern European Jews have to the indigenous land of the Palestinian people. It has nothing to do with that. The reason the British Empire / American military empire / Zionism / the military industrial complex, they're all the same thing, chose Palestine was for strategic importance. It gave them an excuse to have a foothold in the Middle East. It gave them an excuse to wipe out further indigeneity of free-thinking, free-feeling people, while bringing an excuse for eternal war and eternal profiting of the military-industrial complex. But Palestine's become a little bit problematic now for the military-industrial complex, because through the lens of Palestine, the world is seeing who really runs this shit show. We're seeing the shadowy figures who are pulling the strings, and it's only a matter of time before everybody knows what's really going on. So oppressing Palestine isn't really working out that well for the military-industrial complex, despite all the weapons being tested, despite the data that they are collecting on where the red line is for humanity. Palestine is now becoming, thanks to activists and people speaking up on platforms like this, thanks to boycotting, thanks to direct action and demonstrations, and thanks generally to all the various forms of love that are being shown to these oppressed indigenous people of the Holy Land. But Cyprus, not so much. Cyprus is kind of already owned by Britain, aka the military-industrial complex. In fact, the line between East and West, by West I mean white colonizing countries, or countries that have been colonised by white colonisers. And Cyprus really does form the line there. It's where Turkey meets Britain. It's where the East meets the West. It's where the Islamic world meets the European world. It's strategically at least as important as Palestine. Now from Cyprus, attacks can easily be launched all across the Middle East. Without Cyprus, the British presence in the area would be much weakened. But the thing about Cyprus is that over 30,000 Israelis have already decided to leave, to refugee to Cyprus. I'm wondering how the actual Cypriots feel about this, because this is how it started for Palestine. If you have a holiday booked to Cyprus at the moment, I'd be thinking about cancelling that.
I also think that as a Jewish person, like, I was fed a huge amount of lies about Israel my entire life. You know,
yeah.
They never tell you that. Oh, by the way, there were people there. They make it seem like it was just like they're sitting there.
Yeah,
it was the doors open.
Hours for the taking.
Like, it literally, they forget to include the fact to every young Jewish person, basically, like, oh, by the way, there were people there. It'd be nice to live somewhere that was not a part of the Christian apocalyptic prophecy. It is also probably a good idea. It's like, maybe settle somewhere that, you know, the Christians don't think you all have to die in order for the
yeah, and then they want us all to go there. They need a certain number
They
of
need
Jews.
us to go there so we can die, so the apocalypse.
But that, could you imagine living in Israel? Would you ever go live in Israel?
No.
So I came personally here because I want to protest my government's choice to host the Israeli president here. We, as Cypriots, we don't want to facilitate to any genocide that's happening in Gaza and the whole Palestine as well. We want our government to cut ties with them.
We are here in Cyprus and we are 400 kilometers away. It's not something that is distant, or in fact it doesn't matter where it's happening. It's happening in our world. It's too painful. It's too painful. Actually, it's very hard to speak about this because it's a cruelty.
We want an independent island because our island is being used by imperialist forces as a launch pad, shedding bombs against Middle East people.
Ooh, it's getting out of hand. Oh dear. Like, I'm not that far away, like literally where, well, as you can see here, I'm just this field away. So this is how bad it's getting. Look, planes. Oh, you can see that. Look, it's coming round. Look at this plane. It's dropping water. Wow. This is how bad it's getting. Look at the smoke, man. It's getting really bad. See if I can see it dropping the water. Are you going to drop the water? It's going to drop there. Look at that. Woo! Jeez Louise. Wow.
Israel is colonizing Cyprus. As the genocide in Gaza continues, Israelis are fleeing as the economy tanks because of boycotts and missiles from Iran and Yemen strike the country. Cyprus has now become a prime destination for Israelis due to its close proximity, similar climate, as well as very low taxes. We're now seeing these images where whole cruise ships of Israelis are arriving to Cyprus, with the number of Israelis living in Cyprus nearly doubling, going from roughly 6,500 before the genocide in Gaza to now roughly 15,000. And this rapid increase in Israelis is something that is continuing to to this day. The consequence has been quite severe, with skyrocketing rent across Cyprus. In some areas, for instance, the rent has increased by 20%, and in other areas it has nearly doubled. You have to remember that the average Israeli makes roughly 1/3 to half as much as the average Cypriot, which means that while Israelis can afford these prices for rent and buying property, the average Cypriot is now finding themselves unable to access affordable housing. And we have to remember, of course, that Cyprus is quite familiar with what it's like to be occupied. For instance, the northern part of Cyprus is occupied by Turkey, while parts of the south are actually still occupied by the United Kingdom, where it has its military bases, which, by the way, it actually uses to assist Israel in its genocide. But that's another story. Many Cypriots now fear that their country is becoming a sort of backup colony, a place for Israelis to settle as the genocide in Gaza continues and wars across the Middle East that have been started by Israel continue to get worse and worse. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. I encourage you to subscribe on whatever platform you are using to watch it, and go check out some of my other stuff. I do a lot of videos on geography from a more critical decolonial lens, as well as a lot of content on politics, especially on the Israeli genocide in Gaza. Thank you.
Cyprus is beyond pissed at these Israelis. This is because during the 12-day war, you may have seen that thousands of Israelis fled the promised land for this little island in the Mediterranean northwest of Lebanon and Israel. Now, during this 12-day war, Cyprus government is now finding out that these Israelis using fake names and fake passports because they were coming on a boat were buying up a lot of land in Cyprus, similar to what they did to Palestine in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. And following this blueprint, the Cyprus government is now worried that this could turn into a new Israel, or that the Israelis are going to take over the island, similar to what they did to Palestine. And when Cyprus started taking up this land bought by the Israelis who live in Israel and not Cyprus, the Israeli government sent a letter to Cyprus calling them anti-Semitic for buying back land that was illegally purchased. The government of Cyprus, which is monitored by Greece and Turkey, is beyond pissed right now at Israel.
Did you guys know that Cyprus is also the Israelis' promised land as well? And I'm not joking. This is not a joke. I have proof to show you. The Turkish National Intelligence was basically monitoring the whole situation in Cyprus in 2023. The allegations were that 2,000 Israeli citizens had bought over 200 properties in Cyprus, placing them in 12th place of citizens among all countries. There are certain laws in Cyprus where foreigners cannot acquire that much land in their country. It says that they can only acquire up to 500 square meters of land in their country. The Cyprus Foundation basically issued a public warning saying that Israel's occupation plan is not just limited to Palestine. And the map of the Promised Lands made by Zionists also encompasses Cyprus. That's why significant land acquisition by Zionists in northern Cyprus poses a serious threat to stability in the region. Theodore Herzl, who is actually the founder of Zionism, actually declared Cyprus as their second promised land after Palestine. And Netanyahu backed this, saying that they aspire from the holy books and that they're trying to acquire all of the promised lands. And Israel was using a British military base in Cyprus for the acts that they committed in Gaza. Anyways, pre-Palestine...
Jays are always saying that Israel is the only J state in the entire world. Actually, it's not. The Jewish Autonomous Oblast, another Jewish state founded in 1934, way before the founding of Israel in 1948. It was created as a homeland and safe haven for Jays to escape to, especially after the 1933 German election of a certain anti-Zionist leader in Europe. Located on the other side of Russia, it is actually 75% bigger than Israel. They can all go there. That's safe for them, especially since they're being kicked out of the Middle East, America, and Europe. So they can't claim that they only have one bit of land. Their new neighbors will be China, North Korea, and Russia, which will keep them safe, but also box in any problems or dreams of expansionism, which they're always accused of. So while the Zios are always complaining that they need a homeland, at the same time they deny everybody else a homeland, they actually have two states, and they should be moved to the less problematic of the two. It's bigger for them and better for everybody.
Israel is mad at Cyprus and calling them anti-Semitic because Cyprus voiced their concern over the large amount of real estate purchases recently made by Israelis inside of Cyprus. And the issue has swiftly become a central topic in Cypriot political discourse, with the second largest political party in Cyprus claiming that Israelis are buying up land at a fast pace, that too near critical and sensitive infrastructure, which according to them is a huge threat to Cyprus's national security concerns. He also warned that Israeli real estate buyers are also part of a broader strategy involving the creation of closed communities, Zionist schools, synagogues, and influence over key economic areas inside of Cyprus. They also accused the current Cyprus government of allowing this uncontrolled level of land sales to Israel, which is also driving up the home prices and pricing out the local Cyprus population. The Israeli ambassador to Cyprus was very unhappy with this discourse and called it anti-Semitic, and also went on to hilariously say that collectively blaming all of Israelis for the action of a few real estate investors is not the answer.
Tensions are rising in Cyprus after the leader of the island's main opposition party made some controversial remarks that have sparked accusations of anti-Semitism. Secretary General of the left-wing Akel party Stefanou has said that Israeli investors are buying up coastal land and are building what he called Zionist schools and synagogues. He claimed that parts of Cyprus are turning into gated ghettos. Now, Stefanou also added that Israel does not tolerate criticism and wants to control everything. Israel's ambassador has condemned these statements, calling them plain and simple anti-Semitism. Ambassador Oren Analek has said that Stefanou had crossed a line, targeting a community on the basis of identity. Now, the controversy follows a June resolution by Akel calling for limits on so-called golden visas, the residency permits offered to non-EU nationals who invest in property. Now, according to the Cyprus Mail, Israeli nationals now rank as the fourth largest group of foreign buyers in both districts, trailing Britons, Russians and Greeks. Akel has rejected the anti-Semitism label, insisting its critique is about real estate policy and not religious or ethnic identity. A parliamentary debate on hate speech is now expected to take place before the August recess.
Oh my God, guys, the Israeli aliens are like the gift that keeps on giving. Herpes, because this Israeli alien newspaper said that Greece and Southern Cyprus needs to help liberate Northern Cyprus in coordination with Israel, because Northern Cyprus is also an Israeli problem. Y'all, these people go to places and make up problems that don't exist, all right? Because from what I know, and if you were from Cyprus, interact with this post, from what I know, the people in Cyprus, they lived in peace. North Cyprus and South Cyprus, they didn't have no issues, right? You have the South Cyprus, which is the British control side, the North Cyprus, which is the Turkish control side. But as soon as the Israeli aliens got over there, they started making problems. And if you are from Cyprus, if you are a Cyprian, please interact with this post and let me know how your life has changed since the Israeli aliens have invaded. I'm serious, y'all. But these people, man, they go places and they just cause problems, y'all. They need to...
This is Cyprus, a famous island located in the Mediterranean Sea. Many people might assume that this island belongs entirely to the Republic of Cyprus because the country's flag features the exact map of the island. However, in reality, the island currently has 4 distinct territories. The southern part of the island is the Republic of Cyprus, the internationally recognized state. The northern part is the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, a country not internationally recognized and only acknowledged by Turkey. Additionally, there are 2 British military bases on the island, Akrotiri and Dikelia. The green-colored area is known as the Green Line, a United Nations buffer zone to maintain security and prevent armed conflicts between the 2 sides. In the past, Cyprus gained independence from the United Kingdom in 1960, except for 2 military territories, Akrotiri and Dikelia. The island had plans to unite with Greece, but Turkey opposed this plan for various reasons. As a result, Turkey occupied the northern part of the island and established the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus.
Hey, let's talk about something that no one seems to be talking about, but everyone probably should take a look at. The island of Cyprus. It's a tiny, just 1.3 million people live there. That's about the size of Connecticut, and it's turning into sort of a secret hotspot. Thousands of Israelis have been moving there. Some are fleeing war, of course. Others are buying land fast. But it's normal to move, right? Well, maybe not at thousands at once in a small place like Cyprus. What's even more telling is a ton of these homes are in northern Cyprus, the Turkish-controlled side. Cyprus is split. You have the Greek in the south and you have the Turks in the north. Then they've been tense forever. And now Israelis are buying up, on both sides. Cypriot lawmakers call it a quiet invasion. Turkey agrees. They're limiting how much land foreigners, especially Israelis, can buy in the north. Think about it. Why Turkey's worried. If Israel starts buying and planting intel bases or maybe even naval ports, that could turn into military control really quick. Reports say Mossad is already using Cyprus as a jump-off point, and now Israeli citizens are on the ground. We've seen this pattern before, haven't we? Well, crisis or a buildup, land grabs, infrastructure follows on that land, and then influence takes root. And then suddenly, control is lost. It's a fractal. It's a repeating geopolitical pattern. We've seen it in East Jerusalem, parts of Africa, the Balkans, now Cyprus. And here's the signal. It's all about land. Whoever controls the land and builds on it controls the future. And here's sort of a deeper layer. Turkey and Israel, their relationship is fraying. Once close allies, now tense rivals. Turkey's Erdogan feels encircled. He's angry that Israel is emboldened after the Iran war and sees new Israeli influence across the Mediterranean as a direct threat. Well, because of that, Turkey is blocking large EU-Israel energy projects like the undersea cable, calling them provocative. In Syria, Israel actually...
We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
This is Mossad's old office. Its motto from Proverbs 24:6 says in so many words, wage war through deception and trickery.
Five Israeli men have gone on trial in Cyprus for the gang of a British woman last month. The alleged attack is said to have taken place in a hotel in Ayia Napa, a popular tourist resort. A packed courtroom today, just north of Ayia Napa, was filled with relatives of the defendants who showed up in a show of support. The defendants were all aged from 19 to 20 and come from the Israeli Arab town of Majid al-Krum. They deny all charges. At the hearing on Thursday, their lawyers complained that they had not yet seen key evidence, including the DNA report. One claimed the report could show his two clients were not in the room at the time of the attack on September the 3rd. Now, outside the courts today, there was a real show of solidarity from women who were posting banners, holding banners, saying things like, "Sister, we believe you. We believe this happened." It said that out of the 5 Israeli men, at least 2 of them were weeping in the dock. And this British woman, whatever happened to her, will obviously my heart and prayers go out to her. The state prosecutor said the DNA report would be ready by the end of the day. After the hearing was adjourned, the defendants' families rushed to embrace them, one of the men visibly crying as he hugged his mother. Israeli's foreign minister said the 6 citizens had been arrested since the alleged attack, but there was only 5 in the court today, and the trial will resume on the 16th of October. So obviously recent reports don't really have much about what is said to have taken place. So we've gone back in time a little bit, and it says that on the 4th of September of this year, 6 Israeli citizens had been arrested in Cyprus on suspicion of R-word in a British tourist. A statement said that the Israeli embassy had been informed that its consul was in contact with local authorities. The UK Foreign Office said it was supporting a British woman in Cyprus. Cypriotic media said that a court had ordered detention of 5 foreigners for 8 days, pending investigations into what happened in Ayia Napa. There was no immediate confirmation from police in Cyprus, but Reuters news agency separately cited a British source as identifying the tourist as a British woman. The woman filed a complaint with police on Sunday, just before the men were arrested on the Monday, and she said that she'd been attacked at her hotel in Ayia Napa earlier that day. The source of the 5 suspects was said to be between 19 and 20, and it was not clear if there was a discrepancy in the number of arrests due to the fact that obviously 6 were arrested but only 5 have been detained. So it might be that one was just innocent, it might be that they just got the numbers wrong. I will keep you updated once the trial starts. Hopefully we'll hear more about what happened to be able to update you on the court, and hopefully if these men are guilty then they're held to the full extent of the law.
Today we are going to discuss some extremely controversial topics. And because this is going to go on YouTube, there are certain words I cannot say. So just to warn you, I will write down these words, but I will not say them, because if I do say them, then I will get censored on YouTube. Today, we're going to look at how evil triumphs. Why is the world so evil? And there's going to be a lot of extremely disturbing topics we're going to discuss. But you're mature, and it's important that we discuss these topics in order to understand how the world works. So let's just start. And we will do a lot of speculation and theorizing in this class. So do not take this as gospel. Do not believe this is the truth. The entire point of this class is to help you develop the theories and the ideas to better understand the world. These are tools. Okay, this is not truth. These are tools. All right. So the first question I have for you is, what is happening in Israel? Right now, as you know, Israel is besieging, bombarding Gaza. You might have seen the videos on social media. It is disturbing. It is terrible what is happening. The word that is happening, the word that we use for what is happening in Gaza is this word. You are not allowed to say this word on YouTube, but that is the intention. What I will argue, though, is that the truth is far more disturbing than this. What is really happening in Gaza is a ritual sacrifice. And this happens quite often in human history. If you go back and you look at the real history of humanity, this happens quite often. Some of the most famous examples are the Aztecs. We've dug up temples of the Aztecs, and inside the temples are thousands and thousands of human skulls. So before they went to war, they practiced human sacrifice. They would commit mass murder of their enemies in public. So the Aztecs were really famous for this. The Phoenicians, specifically the Carthaginians. We will discuss them later this semester, but the Phoenicians were also famous for a particular type of sacrifice, which is child sacrifice. The Romans wrote histories insulting the Phoenicians for practicing this sort of sacrifice. But the Romans themselves practiced human sacrifice. What they would do is that after every major war, they would capture all the major leaders, all their enemies, and they would parade their enemies through the streets of Rome. This is something called a triumph. At the end of the triumph, they would gather enemies at the temple of Jupiter. Jupiter is their god. And then they would strangle to death their enemies. That's sacrifice. That's human sacrifice. They didn't call it that, okay? And they sort of disguised it, but we know for a fact that they did do this. So the question for us is, why is it that this happens? Why do the Aztecs do it? Why do the Phoenicians do it? Why do the Romans do it? And why is it today the Israelis do it in Gaza? And remember, okay, what the Israelis are doing is quite horrific because it is really this sort of sacrifice. Why? Because 47%, almost half of the population of Gaza is under 18 years old. So the majority of people who are getting killed are in fact children. What is most striking or blatant about what's happening in Gaza is that we can all see it for ourselves. And it's almost as though the Israelis want us to see it and want us to hate them. Right? You can see all over the world, popular opinion is turning against Israel. You have these popular protests all around the world protesting what is happening in Palestine. If they really want to do this, right, there are actually much more effective ways of doing this. For example, you could just poison their water. Or you could poison the ear so that everyone in Gaza gets a fast cancer, right? We have the technology to do this. So Israel could do this secretly and no one would talk about it. And in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, the population of Gaza would all be gone. It would be a very secret, right? Instead, they choose to do this in front of the world. And my argument to you is that this is intentional. They want the world to hate them. Because by doing this, they create the ultimate taboo, right? We find this disgusting and contemptuous, so the entire world will unite against Israel. But guess what? That's what their religion wants. In the extreme form of Jewish eschatology, or the religion, they believe that at the end of the world, Israel will fight the entire world and God will help Israel triumph in the end. So what's really happening in Gaza is that there are extremists within the Israel government who want to accelerate the process of the end of the world, where Israel will face the world. And if you think about it, the entire idea of this ritual sacrifice is to unite the Israeli population. And what's extremely disturbing and horrifying about it is that this works. Why? Well, let's use an analogy, okay? The analogy is this. In Chinese history, the most popular military stratagem is to fight with a river behind your back. You guys have heard of this strategy, right? Where, okay, an army is losing, okay? It's being scattered by the enemy. So what the general does is forces the army to retreat to a river. And now with the river blocking your escape, you have a choice. You can either drown in the river or you can fight to the death. And most soldiers will choose to fight to the death. And so at this point, the soldiers are unified, they're galvanized, they're energized, and then they find a surge of energy to go and destroy their enemy. Okay, this is the most popular military stratagem in ancient Chinese history, and guess what? It's the same as Israel doing this right now in Gaza. It's the same logic. Yes, you have a question?
So what is the river for the Israel? Like,
yeah, that's a good question. What's a river right here, right? The river is a taboo, right? What's the worst thing you can do in modern society? Killing children, guys, right? So there's no exit for Israel. You either go all the way or the world comes and destroys you anyway. And in fact, what's really interesting is that if you go online, you will see Israelis go around the world and causing trouble everywhere. They're going to start fights. They shout death to the Arabs on public buses in the Western world. It's intentional. They want to unite themselves by dividing the world, by angering the world. Okay? Does that make sense?